Well, not only does the intellectual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood not have a place at the table, this group doesn't belong in the house or on the property, and yes, they are definitely a threat to the United States. As you will see this week, and please don't miss a single episode this week, DVR it. Pause the program. If you don't understand something or you missed it, go back. Please, don't take my word for anything. Please do your own research. This affects you. When Bill O'Reilly asks the question, are they a danger? The answer is yes. Is the Muslim Brotherhood a danger? Yes. Why? Because the man who does Sharia and life for 40 million people every single week and is their spiritual and intellectual advisor is influencing our country as well. You see, he is the chairman of the Michigan-based Islamic American University. He is listed as an IAW faculty member. Michigan. IAW is the subsidiary, or IAU is the subsidiary of the Muslim American Society, which is based in Alexandria, Virginia. MAS is Muslim Brotherhood. You got it? They have 50 chapters nationwide. And it is based there in Virginia. And there they all are. That's the Muslim Brotherhood in the U.S. He is their spiritual and intellectual leader. Now, why would the Brotherhood have their own university with this guy leading it? Well, here's an article today from Reuters. I want to show you this. It's on how the tide is turning towards the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, in this interview, they interview a leading figure of the Brotherhood. He's been in and out of jail for 30 years in Egypt. He escaped during the riots and the protests last Sunday. He was one of the 34 Brotherhood who escaped after being put in jail because he was making preparations for the protests. Protests, he now says, the group has been active in organizing. The Brotherhood has been active in organizing these riots. Tomorrow we begin to show you some connections here where you'll understand the organizing, community organizing, that I think will suck some of the air out of your room. It's pretty shocking stuff. But it will also show you, I mean, just this story shows you the neglect that the members of the press should be charged with. It's neglect at best. They have all of the pieces right in front of them, yet they don't somehow or another put them all together and tell you what they're mocking me for. They're all here. They'll say that they're all freedom-loving Egyptians who just want democracy. You know, there's no trouble here. And yet they're saying that they've been active organizing this with whom, I may ask. He went on to say to Reuters, our goal is to make sure the identity of society is Islamic. Can we just do the math and put all these together? Reuters went on to explain that the Brotherhood is, quote, linked to Hamas and shares its belief in armed struggle against Israel and, quote, is confident that Islam and Sharia will eventually rule, and they're working to achieve that goal. Now, Sharia law, again, if it's just in one country, it's 1979 in Iran, which everyone says can't be true. And if it's in more than one country, you have, what is it called again? A caliphate. Do you see how far ahead of this story you already are? By the end of the week, I'll promise you, you will know more about this story and Egypt and the global connections that most journalists will never figure it out. You'll have this story locked by Friday. And every bit of it, I urge you to verify independently. But when you do that, you will most likely find what we have found. The only way to verify is to go to the most reliable source, their own words on videotape. More in a second. All right, I want to show you here, we were really stopped at the Muslim Brotherhood, and are they peaceful? I just introduced you to their spiritual advisor, but are they peaceful? Are they peaceful? Well, I want to show you in their own words. Here's other members of the Muslim Brotherhood. Are they peaceful? You decide. Watch.
يأمره الله به ولقد أمرنا الله سبحانه وتعالى بالجهاد نحن من مصر العظيمة الكريمة مصر التي بها رجال يخافون الله ويعلنون الحق ويعملون على نهضتها.
عدوهم الوحيد والرئيسي. شوفي حضرتك اليهود اللي قاعدين في فلسطين الآن محتلينها عينيهم على مصر.
وأنا أريد أن نعرج على كلمة القاعدة. ما في حاجة في اسمها قاعدة، هذا اختراع أمريكي. هذا عشان يبقى عنده في حاجة اسمها يحارب من أجلها
فعلا الأمة التي لا تجيد صناعة الموت لا تستحق الحياة.
فإن لم تفعلوا فسيدوسكم الشعب قريبا إن شاء الله.
All right, so in this op-ed piece, Stand for Freedom, Bill Kristol, a defender of the Republic for years and years and years, came out and described the group and said, you know, the people over there, it's like 1776, and saying it's a caliphate, that's a conspiracy theory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, even Thomas Paine and Thomas Jefferson missed the difference between the American Revolution and the French Revolution. Oh, granted, it's hard to see. But I didn't see John Adams there, did you? I mean, I saw killers and I saw hate. I didn't, is that John Adams? Is that George Washington? The regular people in Egypt, I'm sorry, they might be nice people, but they are not the people of the American Revolution. And I have been trying to make this point that you have to be much different, even than we are, to be able to have revolution and have it end the way it ended here. Their concept of freedom is different than yours. Let's not be judgmental and say that it's, no, I'm going to be judgmental. It sucks compared to our idea of freedom. For instance, no one has taken a poll on how many adulterers should be stoned to death in America, but I'm guessing very few people believe that. But in Egypt, 82% of the people just on the street support stoning people who commit adultery. 77% support whipping and cutting off the hands for theft and robbery. How many Americans do you believe if you left your church, how many Americans believe you should be killed for doing it? I'm guessing 0, unless you're in a nutbag church. 84% of the regular people in Egypt support the death penalty for those who leave the Muslim religion. By contrast, in America, only 64% even support the death penalty for murder, let alone change in belief. 49% view Hamas favorably in Egypt. Let me remind you, the Muslim Brotherhood is the group that created Hamas. In America, nearly 6 out of 10 side with the Israelis, while 18% side with the Palestinians, and 57% say we should never send aid to the Palestinian Authority under Hamas leadership. So what does all of this mean? Because this is more than just the Muslim Brotherhood. But when we look at the Muslim Brotherhood, we have learned this in just the last 20 minutes. 1, their intellectual and spiritual leader advocates Sharia law. Sharia law allows for honor killings, stonings, and the death penalty if you leave Islam. The Muslim Brotherhood leadership is organizing the marches. One of our favorite quotes, their deputy leader says, "A nation that doesn't excel at death doesn't deserve life." Oh, and one more thing, our government is fine with sitting down with them at the table and working things out. Gang, I mean, I can't get over this. Maybe it's me, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think the lines between good and evil can get any more black and white. This isn't a debate on whether you disagree with policies. We're talking evil. We're talking about somebody who says we have children bombs. Does evil even matter anymore? Is our society becoming completely morally bankrupt and spiritually blind? You know what? Maybe that's why Al Jazeera had to take out a full-page ad, because we're so blind. This is in the New York Times, so everyone can see, hey, you should watch Al Jazeera. Even our media can't figure out that Al Jazeera is a propaganda machine, in this case for the Muslim Brotherhood and the revolution on the streets. Our media is not only useful idiots, but they're now accepting profit to become their ad men. Watch.
Thank you for what you're doing. People say Al Jazeera fanned the flames here by bringing the fact that democracy is in existence and that people are being suppressed. That's what we need. We need more communication in the world. It's not Al Jazeera's fault that Mubarak is under a siege now.
I spoke earlier today to a former State Department official named Katie Stanton. She's now vice president at Twitter. She says everyone, including government officials here in the States, are turning to Al Jazeera as a trusted source of news.
Let's start with Al Jazeera. I was concerned because cable companies were not picking it up. I wanted Americans to know what people in the Middle East were saying about us.
1.6 million people in the U.S. have watched Al Jazeera English online since Friday. I've been one of them. It's been fantastic. Bill O'Reilly on Friday said again, it's anti-American. Yeah. I feel like that's being drowned out by the raw coverage. You know, they're the main ones with these live shots out of Egypt. That counts for something.
Brian, before you went over to the New York Times, you had a clue. What happened? Do you know who Al Jazeera is? Do you remember what they said about America? What they say in English is one thing. Didn't you just learn this with the Muslim Brotherhood? What they say in English is one thing. Do you remember what they said about America? In 2006, on the 5th anniversary of 9/11, Al Jazeera polled their audience, asking, do you support Osama bin Laden? 50% said yes. And in 2008, more than 50% of people polled by Al Jazeera reject the official belief that the attacks on the World Trade Center on September 11th were carried out by Al-Qaeda. I mean, I think you've seen enough to make your decision here. And either you think that everything I say has no credibility, and maybe you come into it saying, oh, he has no credibility. Please look this up yourself. If you just dismiss it out of hand and you turn the channel and you say, oh, well, he just has no credibility, and you haven't looked it up, and yet you're dismissing me, ask yourself why. Why? Look it up. What part of their own words don't fit with, we shouldn't be in bed with these people? And yes, they are a danger to us. If you still think you are getting the truth from the media on who is really involved and what's really going on in Egypt, flip the channel to SpongeBob SquarePants. I think he's on. I think it might be the episode where Patrick figures out what calamari is. Oh, no! It's a thrilling episode. But if you're willing to challenge everything that you thought was true, let me show you the bigger picture and the pattern that is beginning to appear. But we can't go there without first making a stop with the unions. Next.
Glenn always says, watch the other hand. While we were throwing down chips and salsa this weekend, the TSA got collective bargaining rights. The dangers of a unionized TSA. Next.